Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, it almost came crashing down. The construction mishap in the North County highlighting safety gaps and why this may not be an isolated incident.
And where are all the Democrats running for San Diego mayor? Primary elections are less than a year away. I'm Peggy Pico with what's behind the candidate void. Plus, it's not too late to get in on the Comic-Con action even if you don't have a badge. Where and how you can join in on off-site events.
The developers are starting to realize that they need these role models in games because there's more girls that are playing games.
Move over men, women gamers making a statement at a high-profile conference. Their message to the gaming community, keep up. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Dwayne Brown is off. I'm Maya Trabolsi. Safety gaps have been an ongoing concern with the North County Transit District over the last few years, and video footage obtained by KPBS media partner iNewsSource shows a near disastrous crane accident happened at a busy transit station just last month. Joining us now is the reporter who received the footage, Brad Racino. Now, Brad, set this up for us a bit, if you would. Where was the footage from and what's going on in it?
The video was captured from 3 different angles at the Escondido Transit Center, which is a busy commuter station in North County that connects the Breeze bus service and Lift light rail lines. NCTD needed some trees removed from the station and contracted the job out to a local crane company.
Brad, describe to us what's happening, if you would.
It's pretty simple. The tree was just too heavy for the crane. The weight ends up lifting the crane off the ground before it comes crashing back down. The only reason it didn't tip over was because the line connecting the crane to the tree snapped off.
Now, from that angle, you see what happened to the crane, but what do the other angles show?
They show what happened with what's called the overhaul ball. It's a heavy weight connected to the line. Once that line snapped, the 300 to 500 pound ball skyrocketed, and you'll see safety workers and a security guard run for their lives as it falls back down. The guard almost gets run over by a passenger bus making its way through the transit center, and the ball lands about 50 feet from the bus. So not only were the people in danger, but so were the passengers on that bus, which is powered by compressed gas that's housed on the roof of that vehicle.
Incredible footage you have there. And here we'll see video of that weight crashing down on the pavement. Brad, what does NCTD have to say about this?
Their spokesperson said safety is the district's top priority, and that's about it. They wouldn't let me speak to anyone about this incident. The crane company also wouldn't respond to requests for comment. Now, I should mention that this isn't an isolated incident. For years, we've been keeping tabs on North County and have found serious gaps in safety time and time again, from untrained security guards to the Sprinter shutdown to the way the district cared for its disabled passengers. These things just keep happening, and the board of directors, who are all elected officials from the cities that make up the district, have continually refused requests to talk about our findings.
That's iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino. Thank you. It was 35 years in the making. Today, Sandag broke ground on a project it promised to City Heights in the 1980s. KPBS reporter Megan Burke says in 2017, residents will be able to board buses at special stops in the freeway median.
This used to be Allen Kent Furniture, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the original Nicolosi's Italian restaurant. I remember that.
Before cars sped through City Heights on Interstate 15's 8 lanes, they drove down 40th Street past homes and businesses.
Back in early 80s, they started buying out the property, but the houses sat empty here for, 10, 15 years. So they finally started building this freeway back in 1998.
Caltrans dug out a trench for the freeway. Christopher Castor says he and his son would ride their bikes in it before the cement trucks came. But residents largely considered the project a deep gash that split their community in two. They demanded a park and a special transit line called Centerline as reparations. Maria Cortez has been fighting for the Centerline project since its inception.
Yes, there were times when people were saying, that's never going to happen, it's just a dream. No, I said, but dreams and visions are made to come true.
When Centerline is complete, passengers will take elevators from the El Cajon Boulevard overpass down to bus stops in the freeway median. The idea is to get them on buses to job centers as quickly as possible. There isn't anything like it in the region. But speakers at Wednesday's ceremony instead focused on the community movement that made it happen. They say that's the model worth replicating.
This is truly, as I saw noted over here by Anna Daniels, an urban monument to citizen activism. Let's all celebrate that for a moment. Thank you, everyone.
Megan Burks, KPBS News.
And Sandag also plans to break ground soon on a bike path along the 15 from Adams Avenue to Mission Valley. 2 major computer glitches in the last 5 weeks for the nation's second biggest airline. Today's computer problems grounded United Airlines flights across the country for part of the day. The delays caused problems for people flying from Lindbergh Field to the East Coast. An airline spokeswoman says after fixing a router issue, the FAA lifted a ground stop order allowing planes to fly again. The outage had a cascading effect on flyers who were not able to meet their connecting flights.
We got people on the other end expecting us, and the short time that we're going to be with them, and now this makes it shorter.
We absolutely recognize this is a disruption to your travel, and we do appreciate your business and loyalty. We have thousands of coworkers across the system working hard to get back on track as we've resolved the issues.
United apologized to customers and said they could change travel plans without being charged the usual $200 fee for changing reservations. And trading finally resumed today after an outage of more than 3 hours brought the New York Stock Exchange to a halt. The New York Stock Exchange described it as an internal issue and not a breach of systems. This is considered the 4th suspension at the New York Stock Exchange caused by computer glitches in the last 15 years.
My gut is that there are bigger issues to worry about than a trading glitch. We have a Chinese stock market that's plunging. We don't know if Greece will have to exit the euro. It faces a Sunday deadline to come up with a full proposal to its European lenders. I'm more worried about those developments than a software problem.
Other U.S. stock exchanges, including the NASDAQ, were not interrupted, so investors were still able to buy and sell. For nearly a century, the remains of a Medal of Honor soldier have laid in an unmarked communal crypt in San Diego Cemetery. On Thursday, Army Sergeant Charles Schroeder will finally receive a war hero's burial at Miramar National Cemetery. Schroeder's remains were located just recently when the Congressional Medal of Honor Society traced them to Greenwood Cemetery.
It was down a long, dark hallway. The workers pulled out a casket, and in that casket, once they opened it up, were a number of remains. One of the boxes was his, marked very clearly with his name. It was on top, thank goodness.
Schroeder earned the nation's highest combat award during a battle against Apache Indians on 1969 in Arizona. His burial ceremony is set for tomorrow morning. Tomorrow on Evening Edition, the evidence that he was a tough little guy on the front lines. The next election for San Diego mayor is less than a year away, but as Peggy Pico finds out, so far, not a single Democrat has announced an intention to challenge Republican Mayor Kevin Faulconer.
As the clock winds down to the June 2016 primary, San Diego Democrats are still searching for a candidate to run against Mayor Kevin Faulconer. And they may need more than one. Here with analysis is my guest, Voice of San Diego Editor-in-Chief Scott Lewis. Good to see you again, Scott.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Now, you wrote this op-ed piece this week about the lack of Democratic candidates in the race for San Diego mayor. How unusual is it for a party not to have announced a candidate at this point in the game?
Well, it's a little weird because we kind of were under the impression that a new Democratic majority was coming in, swooping into power in San Diego. You know, when Bob Filner got elected in 2012, it was the first time a Democrat got elected mayor in 20 years, and we kind of thought that was the beginning of a new era. And now another presidential election comes along that's going to have big turnout of Democrats probably, and the Democrats aren't putting anybody up. And so that just seems interesting to me. And it may seem far away, but it's 11 months until the June primary, and the mayor has already announced fundraising totals. A lot of places, people running for other offices have gone through that, and nobody for mayor.
So far, crickets on the Democrat side.
Yeah.
But you actually wrote that the Democrats don't really need one candidate. They need two. How come?
Well, because we have a rule in San Diego that the primary, if you get more than 50% of the vote in the primary, you win outright. You don't have to go to a runoff. And so while the Democrats might see an opportunity to overthrow Faulconer in the November general election with all the turnout for, a Democratic presidential candidate, they can't get there without holding him from getting, Kevin Faulconer, from getting 50% or more in the June primary. And so usually you need more than one candidate to do that, and usually you have two prominent candidates to do that, so that you could keep him under 50% and the other two maybe divvy it up 2016 or whatever. And so it's they can't do that. So if they need, they're all waiting for somebody else to get in so that they can get in.
They get in and kind of sort of split that percentage a little bit. Now, are there any plans to change the primary election to a mandatory runoff like there is in Chula Vista?
There's certainly no plans, but now all the labor unions and the labor coalition and the Democratic chairwoman Francine Busby and Todd Gloria, the city councilman, are agitating to change that rule so that the primary is a primary and that the top two candidates move on no matter what, no matter how many the lead candidate gets as far as votes in that primary election. And it is kind of a misnomer to call that a primary election if it has a chance of deciding. We should probably call it an election in June.
Because it stands there. Well, let me ask you this. Could this void when it comes to Democratic candidates simply be that Mayor Faulconer is doing a good job and Democrats don't think they can actually beat him?
Absolutely. He's not. He's going to be a formidable candidate. He hasn't made any giant mistakes. He's done things that have pleased people in the Progressive Coalition, including a climate action plan. He's opposed minimum wage, but unless he loses the Chargers today, that is not going to really provoke somebody to get in. So he passed a budget that was unanimously approved by Democratic City Council. So obviously he's not too divisive.
And what does the head of the local Democratic Party have to say about this void?
Well, they keep talking about this problem with the primary, that if somebody can win outright in the primary where they have low turnout of Democratic voters, then they're having a hard time picturing somebody who's willing to go through that.
Now, some high-profile politicians, Todd Gloria, Tony Atkins, for instance, they've said they're not running for mayor, but there's still time for a Democrat to jump in on this race. How soon do you think they have to announce a candidacy to really have a shot?
Right now. They need to go. Yeah, they need to go tonight. Like I said, the fundraising has already happened on the Right of Center coalition. They're showing some pretty impressive totals. They would have to get a coalition built. They'd have to get their supporters in line, and they'd have to start making their case right now. And so the longer that we wait for that, the more unlikely it becomes that anybody challenges Kevin Faulconer. He might just stroll to a second term without a challenge.
Just because they can't build enough momentum? Why do you need 11 months?
Well, you need to start getting endorsements. You need to start getting money. Money is the key. Fundraising, official fundraising already started a month ago, and so money is going to be a very big deal if you're going to try to overthrow an incumbent mayor.
Do you think that any of this has anything to do with the view of the Democratic Party overall, especially here in San Diego, the Filner scandal, what's happening with Dave Roberts?
I think that it has more to do with their assumption that demographics were really going to be ushering in this new Democratic majority, and that may have led them to atrophy some of their infrastructure, or maybe they just haven't built the actual infrastructure that they need to take over San Diego politics like they thought they would. But I don't think it's necessarily a reverberation from Filner, but we have seen how difficult it is to win other elections, and now we have a relatively popular mayor, so it's a tough one.
All right, Voice of San Diego, Scott Lewis, thank you so much.
Thank you.
West Nile virus continues to spread in the county. As you can see on this map, 14 infected birds were discovered just last week, making it a total of 50 dead birds for the county since the beginning of the year, all tested positive. Last year, 11 San Diegans were infected by the disease and 2 died. The virus is spread by mosquitoes, but most people won't develop the deadly symptoms. Experts say getting rid of standing water around your home and wearing insect repellents can help. Water conservation talks continue. On the list is how Californians are charged. 2/3 of water districts in the state use a tiered water pricing system, charging the biggest water users more. Also on the list is adopting criteria for how oil and gas companies monitor fracking's effect on groundwater. The discussions come as the State Water Board acts on an executive order from the governor calling for an overhaul in water pricing. Actor Tom Selleck is in some hot water, accused of stealing truckloads of water from a public hydrant to use at his 60-acre ranch. The star of crime shows Magnum P.I. and Blue Bloods is being sued by the Callejas Municipal Water District for allegedly filling up a tanker truck at a hydrant more than a dozen times. The district claims they spent $22,000 to document the alleged thefts that date back 2 years. The area in Ventura County where Selleck has his land is under mandatory cutbacks as high as 36% from 2013. And Conan O'Brien is in town for Comic-Con. The late-night talk show host has been tweeting photos with his fans, including the four-legged ones. He also tweeted, "Even the king of Comic-Con needs to take the bus." His TBS talk show will be broadcast from the Spreckles Theater downtown for the next 4 nights. KPBS reporter Angela Carone went to the theater to talk with fans hoping to get tickets.
Everywhere you look downtown, there's a shock of red floppy hair on T-shirts and even on buildings. These fans are lined up, hoping they'll get to see Conan's famous hair in person.
Team Ginger, all the way.
San Diegan's Deidre Schneider and her friend Teresa Wolf arrived at midnight to get standby tickets to today's sold-out show.
When we got here and the taxi dropped us off, we got here and saw no one was here, and we started just jumping up and down, just the two of us by ourselves. First in line, bye!
That line grew overnight.
You're going to line me up according to your numbers, and then we're going to see if we can get you in.
At around 8 a.m. Wednesday, a member of Conan's team came out and distributed numbered wristbands. Schneider and Wolf will come back at 3. If some ticket holders don't show up, they'll get a seat. Juan Miguel Garut is from Tampa. He left his wife at the hotel and got in line at 1:30 a.m. to get them both standby tickets.
He slept on the concrete. So.
Oh, man.
She got to sleep in the comfortable bed. I unfortunately had to sleep on the concrete, so.
Garut says if he doesn't get a seat, he'll sleep next to the theater again tonight, hoping to get in for Thursday's show.
How many nights in a row are you willing to sleep out here?
Until I have to go back to Tampa. Honest answer.
Conan's guests over the 4-day run include the stars of the Hunger Games movies and the TV shows The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. According to TBS, it will be the first time a late-night talk show has been broadcast from San Diego during Comic-Con. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
And if you don't have a ticket to Comic-Con, you can still get in on some of the pop culture action. Peggy Pico highlights some of the badge-free events happening this week in San Diego.
Joining me with a look at the many ways you can still have fun with Comic-Con without actually attending are my guests, KPBS Arts Calendar Editor Nina Guerin and James Hay, creator of the San Diego Comic-Con Offsite Events List. And James, how many offsite events do we have here going on in San Diego?
Well, I'm a little behind because of another convention, but my list currently has 225 items on it. I would suspect if I had had more time to research, I would have found 300 this year.
And there's more coming, right? There's pop-ups that can come up?
There's all sorts of pop-ups. I've never, ever had all the events. Suddenly there'll be new photo ops and people creating their own events just there in the street sometimes.
Very spontaneous. How do you participate in these events? Are they all free? Do you need reservations? Do you need tickets?
It varies from the event to event. I mean, we're talking about parties. We're talking about major companies' events where they set up a huge array of a huge pop-up thing.
I want to ask you that, though, if you can give us a range of the kind of events that you don't actually need your Comic-Con badge for. Are we talking restaurants?
There's converted restaurants. There's art shows. There's a parkour obstacle course that's been set up. There's lots of groups going out to do large group costume events. There's an attempt to do the world's largest video game costuming in the largest group in the same place at once, which if we can't beat at Comic-Con, we're just not trying.
All right, exactly. So you can have a lot of fun. Well, Nina, highlight a few of the offsite events that are still available or maybe are pretty popular.
Okay, well, the San Diego Summer Pops is doing the Pokemon Symphony. And so they're going to be playing music from the video games, and they're going to have a screen with the cute characters. And that's family friendly, and tickets are still available for that. And there's also a word balloon art show, and that is students, faculty, and alumni from San Diego State have comic-themed art and kind of graphic novels and all sorts of comic-related things for free at a gallery downtown. So that's going to be open all 4 days of the event.
And there's comics.
There's comedy. There's some really high-profile, up-and-coming high-profile comedians. We've got Hannibal Buress, Eric Andre. We've got...
and that's at North Park Observatory.
That's at the North Park Observatory.
Are there still tickets to that?
I checked before coming to see you, and there were still tickets, but they'll probably be going fast.
And there's one other favorite of yours.
Yes, there's a comic art event at the Mike Hess Brewing. And so that is 30 local artists, and they're going to just also have their interpretation of art, and that's through graphic novels and art of all kinds. And they're also having an opening party tonight. And you can go, and there'll be food trucks, music, and it's all ages, and that's happening.
Well, getting back to what James said, there's an official list, your official list. There's a Facebook interactive interactive Facebook page to find out about these events, and there's an official version, I think, on the Comic-Con website as well. So let me ask Nina this. You've done this before, and you've said there's a spontaneous way to do this if you don't necessarily want to go looking for tickets. How does that work?
Yeah, if you don't have tickets, you can go downtown, probably public transportation, as James recommends, and just kind of walk around, and you can do as little as just look at people in costumes and take pictures, or you can drop by some of the converted restaurants, or you can kind of just see what pops up. A friend of mine was just having lunch, and she saw Joshua Jackson, the actor, filming something, and she was part of it. So you just never know what's going to happen. You can do as much or as little as you want without having a ticket.
Sort of cruise downtown. Now, James, when did you start doing this list, and what has changed noticeably to you since you began doing it?
I started 4 years ago, and just the number has just grown and grown. Plus, a lot of non-professionals are getting in the act. More meetups, more costume groups,
right. So it's kind of grassroots. It sounds like.
Oh yes, there's tons of the events that I have on the list have no affiliation with any business of any type.
All right. Well, there's so much more to find out about this, and I want to let folks know that we have links to the offsite Comic-Con events and to those web pages at kpbs.org. James Hay and KPBS Nina Guerin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. In the latest installment of the NewsHour bookshelf, Michael Wolff argues television remains the dominant medium in the digital age. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
Now, gaming is a big part of Comic-Con, and traditionally it's big with men. But guys, it's time to hand over the joystick. Adrienne Hill of Marketplace found out why at another convention, E3 in Los Angeles.
This is E3, the giant video game convention. And from the show floor to the games themselves, it's pretty much a sea of guys. But there are signs that's changing. The industry knows we want to see more powerful-looking female characters. And that they need to take female gamers seriously.
I wish there were more girls here, yeah. I was in line, I was looking around, I was like, there's so many men here, and it's pretty, I don't know. I hope some more women show up.
I've seen a lot of women coming in and out of there, and it just inspires me. I'm just like, that's beautiful. Like, you are amazing. You inspire me to want to be a strong woman in this industry.
It's strange because, you know, you don't really see that many women, but I think that's changing a lot because I saw a lot of women today who seemed like they were involved and they were interested. So I think maybe 5-10 years ago it would have been mostly guys, but it doesn't feel so weird for me.
Well, I think this year it's the first time you see a lot of female protagonists in video games, and it's like amazing, like to have these strong, independent women, you know, become catalysts to, you know, an adventure that they're going on. Developers are starting to realize that they need these role models in games because there's more girls that are playing games, and they need these representations that are going to be able to propel them to either venture in the industry themselves or continue to play them.
Reality is just about having fun, you know, and doing the things you love. And it's not about competing, it's about just being equal.
Just gonna have a wander and get our hands on stuff and hopefully bump into some more girls while I'm walking around, I suppose.
And that story from Adrienne Hill of Marketplace from American Public Media. You can find more of our Comic-Con coverage online at kpbs.org. Time now to take a look at your weather. Strong winds are expected to develop in the deserts of San Diego County right now. The area is under a high wind advisory until tomorrow night. We're looking at 70s by the beaches, cloudy skies inland with 70s and 80s. A mix of sun and clouds in the mountains with 70s and 80s. Now again, a high wind advisory in the desert with triple digits. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on Morning Edition. Advocates for the poor are celebrating the state's recent decision to extend Medi-Cal benefits to the children of people who are living here illegally. And they're pushing lawmakers to do more. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening.